Hello, welcome back to my series in Factorio where I am attempting to build a mega factory. My name is Azrael. Come along with me as we continue our adventure. You remember in the last episode I started building out a new smelting facility in my factory. I'm going to go ahead and dismantle the old one, but before I can do that I need to get it all set up. Alright, I'm just going to make some room in my inventory, a little bit of room at least. Go ahead and put one of those radar installations out there so that I can see what's going on around me. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and also put in a new line of furnaces over here. Yeah, speaking of biters, there goes another one. Wait, did I even mention those earlier? I don't know. Anyway, I was thinking about it in my head. So anyway, here goes the last couple of furnaces there. I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up, get some research done out of the way. Alright, get those inserters in place. And then we're going to move on to powering it up. And I do not have substations researched yet. I would much rather use them because they can actually cover an area like this. But in the meantime, this is what I've got, so this is what I'm going to do. And I craft up a few more of those in there. Alright. And get it connected up to the main grid. There we go. Now, right now they are only 8 furnaces long, and eventually I'm going to have them be 16, but I don't have enough of them in my inventory to do this. So I'm going to use these solar panels because they have the same footprint. And that helps me space everything out there, get this rock out of my way. And now it's time to craft up some actual rails, because next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to head down here to the south and start setting up at least what I consider a prototype railroad station. It's going to be a concept for all the ore drop off that has to happen over here. And I'm just waiting for the last couple of rails to craft in my inventory before I start setting it up. It just takes a little while there. In the meantime, go ahead and set up a train. I know I crafted them an episode or two ago and never got around to doing anything with them. Alright, just to make sure that this thing is properly lined up. I know I have the little overlay there now, but I just want to make sure that the train is actually where it's supposed to be. There it goes. Now, for right now, I'm only using fast inserters, basically whatever I have in my inventory at the moment. Eventually, I would like to replace all of these with stack inserters, but I'm not actually crafting any of those at the moment. There's some more research out of the way. As well as these chests, I would like to have them eventually be steel chests, or something to that extent. But right now, I'm just spacing everything out with the wooden chests. All right, now this is a modification of a design that I saw on the official forums. The design that I saw there was set up for the 0.12 mechanisms involving the inserter behavior. I believe that this might work well enough with the way that they work in 0.13, now that they actually have the stack bonuses working the way they are, and with the stack inserters being able to pick up a lot more resources at the same time. And up here, I'm just trying to remember exactly how I had this all worked out. I did have this set up once in a test run, but I don't exactly remember how I had it working. So I'm trying to figure out a lot of stuff just by memory again. And I think I've got it worked out here. I just need to I'm just working on some of these belt balancers. There we go. These 4 lanes heading north are going to represent the main bus of ore heading up into the smelting facility. And essentially each lane coming off of these cars is going to be split so that there are 4 incoming lanes, and then they just balance in with the 4 lanes of the main bus. Just working out all the balancers on there. And I run out of belts halfway through, well, not halfway, but almost when I was done. And I see all of my red belt pack facility is coming along. I've already got all the underground and splitters filled up as far as my filters will allow them. And now we're just waiting on the actual red belts themselves. Alright, that is the way it's ideally set up. Now, only time will tell if this actually works well for the factory itself. I'm going to go ahead and put in another signal there so that another train can come in and wait right behind the one that's currently unloading. Alright, going to head back up here, craft up a bunch more rails, because we'll inevitably need them. And then get some coal for the eventual needs of the diesel locomotive. Pick up some actual red belt stuff. And now those rails that I was crafting don't have room in my inventory. So they're just spilling out onto the ground. I can't have that. I'm going to go ahead and set up a temporary chest. If I can pick all that up. Go ahead and dump some of these inserters that I'm not actually using. As well as some of the yellow belt items that I will need significantly fewer of. And pick up some more steel while I'm at it. Because now it's time to actually get some of those steel chests in place. I want to try to upgrade this as much as I can. To just, you know, mainly to see how it works. And I'm going to officially upgrade all of these to red belts. The first time I'm actually laying those in the game. Woo! Alright, I want this main bus to have red belts. Eventually there'll be blue belts. But I'm not actually making those yet. Get all those the red splitters in place. I'm going to dump some of the stone out of my inventory into that first car, because I want to see how this actually unloads. But before I can see how it all works, there's a biter attack up in the north part of the base. They actually destroyed one of my turrets. Look at all those corpses up there. They were really coming after me there. They're starting to get way too aggressive, and I have a feeling that there's a new base, or a new nest, that's dangerously close to my factory. So I'm going to go, yep, there it is right there. That is way too close. I cannot allow this to continue. And there's a lot more of the medium biters up there. I'm going to go ahead and turret creep this thing out. It's just a constant swarm of biters there. Yeah, this is just, and there's also a medium worm up there that's going to be able to hit me before I can hit it. It was trying to take down one of my my turrets when it couldn't actually fight back. And then there's another one up there. I made sure to put it in range this time. Alright, that takes care of that base. That'll show him who's boss. Because that will never ever happen again, right? Alright, I'm going to get some of these stones out of the way. Because I did dump all of my stone resources into the train to do that test. While I'm up here, I'm going to go ahead and set up a stack inserter factory. I keep calling them factories. I technically should call them assemblers. Because factory has a completely different meaning in this game. I'm also rewiring this whole place so that it uses a lot fewer power lines. And just trying to snake it around there so that it reaches everything. Okay, there it goes. Now the stack inserters need fast inserters. I'm just going to go ahead and siphon them out of my my buffer box. It also needs the electronic circuits, and so it's right there on that line, sharing it, of course, with the filter inserters. They may not play well together, but you know, they'll duke it out, and eventually my throughput on the electronic circuits will be a lot more robust. And it's also the first time I'm using red belts on the factory's main bus. And I'm just trying to figure out where I can actually put the iron plates. There's one thing that it needs. It actually needs them for gear production. So I figure I'm going to take that from down there, lead it up into a gear assembler, and then just have that feed down directly into the inserter assembler. And I have an outgoing box that was intended for the stack inserter assembler, but for some reason I spaced out and put it on the gear assembler instead. That is a mistake that I will eventually fix, I promise. You'll actually see that later in the episode when I realized just how dumb I was being. But in the meantime, hey, it's working. It's getting a lot of plates for those gears, and they will eventually come in handy anyway. I go down here to start upgrading the existing smelter facility with red belts, but then I run out of red belts. And you might be saying to yourself, hey, if you're just going to be tearing this down anyway, why bother? The reason is because it's just a compulsory need. There it goes. It momentarily had a great deal of output there, but that was just because it was getting rid of all of the backfill that it had. It was just able to do it much faster. Anyway, let's go back down here to the rail rail depot, where I can once again see how it unloads, and I'm just using that stone as a placeholder. And I realize I'm still using slow inserters on the outside there, so I'm going to pick up all of my ore again and go ahead and give it another shot. Now you can see how quickly it unloads. That's pretty nice. It unloads that pretty quickly. And being satisfied with that, I'm going to go ahead and set up on this is hopefully going to be the northernmost point of the unloading station. So right before it heads into the actual furnace area, I'm going to have one 4-lane balancer there, just to ensure that everything is outputting properly. And now it is time to actually get this furnace area working. Even though I don't actually have any ore delivering yet, that will come eventually. I'm gonna have my output line come over and meet up with the actual main bus. And there's some water pipes in the way. I'm gonna go ahead and move them. All right, and that will feed up properly into the rest of the factory once it actually gets running. So in the meantime, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to actually start working on the rail line. My first stop is the iron mine that I already have set up, because that's going to be the most dire of needs. I would do it for the copper, but right now there's not a huge need for copper in the factory. If you've noticed, every time I run back in there to get something, the copper plate line is almost at a standstill because it's just overproducing. The factory is currently bottlenecked by the lack of iron plates, so obviously that's where the priority should lay. Now I'm going to go ahead and set up the loading station up here in my mining facility. I had a couple more mining drills run out of ore, so that's something I'll have to fix up again a little bit later. But for right now, I want to go ahead and get this station set up because it's been on my list for a rather long time, and I need to get this done sooner rather than later. All right, and then I'm just putting in the outgoing line there. I'm going to have it hook up with that line down there, which means getting rid of a bunch of trees in one of the most heavily forested areas near my factory. That's just sort of how it goes. Until I actually get construction bots, I have to do this all by hand. So just bear with me as this takes a while. Alright. Now this is going to be the main line of the ore delivery system. So it's going to continue off in this direction. There I accidentally get rid of some of my power line. Alright. I'm just going to call that good for now. I'm going to bring down this line. Whoops, made that one tile too long. There we go. I'll go ahead and I'll bother with the signals later once I actually get it close to up and running. Now, before I can set up this this station, I'm going to need more inserters. And right up here is where I realized I had the output on the wrong assembler this whole time. So it was making an abundance of gears, which, like I said, is not really a bad thing. It's just not a terribly good thing either, because all this time has been wasted. Of course, I say that, and then absolutely none of those stack inserters are emptying out into that box, which means it hasn't actually made any. Probably because it's fighting for circuits with the filter inserter assembler. And eventually I'll get all that sorted out. Alright, just checking everything down here. Getting all the stone ore out of my inventory because I'm not needing it right now. Alright, now unlike the drop-off station, I did not do a lot of research into how to do a loading station. I've done this sort of thing before, but I want to make sure that this is set up in a more efficient way than what I've done before. Usually in the past I've just had a single belt run up alongside of the inserters, which means that really only the first 2 or 3 are actually working. In this case, I would like to have a fancy little splitter line that feeds all 6 of the inserters at the same time. And I know that I can do a 1 to 8 belt splitter, but 1 to 6 is a little trickier because you either end up favoring one output line more than the others, or you just have to make this really crazy system where it like loops back around on itself. So like that right there would split into 6 lanes, but the center 2 would be getting significantly more ore than the next 2 out, and even less than the ones out from that. And I want to make sure that this is even. So I start with an 8 belt balancer, which is what you see right there. And then I'm just trying to figure out the spacing for all of that. That's something that would allow it to have those lines that loop back around on itself. But I'm just having a hard time with the placement of this. And of course, I've only ever seen illustrations of this online. I didn't bother making a copy of this for my own use. So I'm reinventing the wheel here in some sense. There's more research. This is just going to keep constantly getting in the way. I mean, I'm glad to have research done as fast as it is. See, like right there, I'm figuring out how to loop it back in on itself. Like that works. You can see everything kind of filtering out, and each of those lanes are getting roughly the same amount of ore, but it's also taking up a lot of room. That's 10 tiles worth of room for 6 lanes of output, which is of course interfering with my other set. I can't just simply duplicate that down because I don't have the room for it. So it's trying to. There's more research. This is basically just trying to figure out how to set this up properly. I promise I do eventually get this figured out in a satisfactory way, but for the next couple of minutes we're just going to be staring at me doing this. So I apologize if this gets a little boring. But hey, like I said, this is all a learning process, and at the very least, you can take the time to laugh at my inability to do these. So I hope this is entertaining for you. And I realize I'm already going over time for the length of the episode, but I couldn't just leave it at this. I mean, that it doesn't help me at all. Is that OCD that I have to get this finished. So here's where I start to figure out, okay, maybe I can get this working. I don't actually need that one out on the end. I can just have that part loop back in on itself. That should work. And now it's just a matter of duplicating it down here. But before I can get that quite set up, there's another biter attack. They're destroying more parts of my factory. And I'm already over time, so I don't have time for this. You can see they went after my sulfur production, bypassing the line of turrets that I already had. It's like they know. They just know how to get around these defenses. And of course, since it's been so long since I've set this up, I can't quite remember how it was set up to begin with. All I have to go by is the rubble that's on the ground, and that doesn't help because it doesn't tell me what was there. So now here's where I finally figure out how it was all set up again. Get to repair that one turret and put out a whole bunch more. And just they'll probably figure out how to get around those too, but for right now I don't have the time. I mean, that should help a little bit. Right now I want to head back into my mining facility and fix this up, now that I finally have it figured out. And instead of looping that last one around, I'm going to have that actually feed into the factory, because all this time I have not had any ore heading into the factory. So for right now, I will call that the end of the episode. Thank you very much for watching, and never stop building.